קודשך הגדול והנורא בתחנון נגילה ונשמחה ישועתך והביאנו לשמוע מאברהם כאן פה הארץ ותוכנו כמו מיד לארצנו כי אל פועל ישועתך. It's like a whole thing. It's to do the entire very long lengthy piece of text. But when I'm directed to Bahar Araneno on 650 it doesn't include that, so we'll just do that same thing twice from the beginning, okay? That's everything. So if you'll just do a little tickling on the keys. Yeah, AABAA. Yep, AABAA. Thank you so much, and I will see you in 10 minutes when we get started. Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar meod. Wow, from one word, I'm impressed. It's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. Well, it's a good one for going through hard times, because the whole concept is the whole world is a very narrow bridge, and the thing is to not be afraid. So if there's like something in the portion about fear, that would be a good one. I'm going to use the restroom and I'll be right back.
Erev Tov, Chag Sameach. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you to those watching on live stream. We will be celebrating Simchat Torah this evening during our service. We'll have a brief first part of the evening service, and then have the Hakafot with the Torah scrolls during the Torah service, and roll out the Torah. So we are going to begin with the singing of Hine Matov, how good and pleasant it is to be together.
Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is!
How good it is!
How sweet it is!
How sweet it is to be together on this day.
How good it is!
How good it is!
How sweet it is!
How sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleikum, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleikum, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleikum, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleikum. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
We'll continue with the candle blessing, page 384.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav,
V'tzivanu
lehadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
Chag Sameach once again, and we'll continue on page 389. May our eyes sparkle with the light of Torah, and our ears hear the music of its words. May the space between each letter of the scrolls bring warmth and comfort to our soul. May the syllables draw holiness from our heart, and may this holiness be gentle and soothing to us and all God's creatures. Page 392, Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabba, ve'alma divrach irutei ve'avich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, bagala, u'bizman kariv, ve'imeru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba mevarach, le'olam u'me'almaya, yitbarach, yitbarach ve'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yitador v'yitale v'yitala, shemei l'kodesha
Barichu,
Leila min kol birchata v'shirata,
Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiram v'alma.
V'yimeru.
Amen. We'll continue on page 394. Please rise for Baruch.
Barechu et Adonai hamevorach Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed hamevorach leolam vaed.
Page 397. Hafachba v'hafachba decholava. Turn Torah and keep turning it, for everything can be found in it. Keep your eyes attached to it. Spend your lifetime in its study. Never budge from it, for there is no better way of life than this. We'll continue on page 399. We'll read together at the bottom. Source of life, every year you plant within us a new tree of life. May it be your will that this year our Torah blossoms with kindness and not cruelty, wisdom and not foolishness, awareness and not thoughtlessness. May you teach us a Torah of love that will nourish us in every season. And page 400 will continue with Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
The Havtas on page 402. Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Amen.
We'll continue on page 406 with the singing of Mi Chamocha. Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot, ozei fehele, Nora tehilot, ozei fehele, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Malachutecha ra'u v'anecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, zehei li'anu v'yameru, zehei li'anu v'yameru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Page 409. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. May this night spread over us a canopy of calm lifted by the blessing of rest. There will come a time when the morning will bring no word of war, famine, or anguish. There will come a dawn to rejoice in the peace of mind, heart, and being. Praised are you, the source of renewal within us, for the night's rest and for the promise of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. And we'll continue on page 411. Vayidaber Moshe et moedei Adonai el b'nei Yisrael, and Moses declared the appointed festivals of Adonai to the people of Israel. We'll continue with Tefillah, page 468. Please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Geula livnei bneihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morit hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei ahafar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umidaho melach, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayei hakol.
At the bottom of page 473, Livracha v'lo liklala, for blessing and not for curse. Amen. L'chayim v'lo l'mavet, for life and not death. Amen. L'sova v'lo l'razon, for abundance, not want. Amen. We'll continue with Kedusha 474.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We'll continue on page 480. Please be seated. Our God and God of our ancestors, be mindful of your people Israel and recall our merit for good and grace and in loving kindness and compassion for life and peace on this festival of Atzeret Simchat Torah. Zochreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tova. This day remember us for well-being. Amen. Uvakneinu vo livracha. This day bless us with your nearness. Amen. Uvahoshienu vo l'chayim. This day help us to a fuller life. Amen. And we'll continue with Shalom Rav, Prayer for Peace, page 488.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam V'tov ve'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael v'chol עת ובכל שעה Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
I'll take a moment for individual silent prayer and reflection. And we'll continue with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, service for the reading of Torah. And for Simchat Torah, we are going to do things a little differently. We're going to take the Torah out, and we're going to have a hakafah. During the hakafah, the walking around with the Torah. I'm sorry. During the hakafah, when we walk around with the Torah, I invite everyone who would like to join in the hakafah. If you don't have a flag and would like one, there are flags at the back, so as you go around, you can pick one up at the back, and we'll march around with the Torahs and sing a few extra songs as we do that. I also would like to give people a chance to hold the Torah and carry it. Anyone who would like to do that, you can take it for a little bit and then pass it to another person, so everyone who wants can have a turn. And then when we're finished, we're going to take the Torah and we're going to start here with Bereshit, and we're going to roll it, as you can see, as many of you have seen in the past, all the way to the back, which will be the entire length of the Torah, to Deuteronomy, Devarim, and we're going to read from the very end of the Torah and then start again at the beginning of the Torah to symbolize that the learning and reading of Torah never stops and continues. So that's how it's going to go. So once we finish the hakafah, we're going to place the Torah here. And rather than go back to your seats, if you would like, please gather around at one end or the other. You can go to that far end if you'd like to start, because that's where the reading is going to start. And then if you'd like to come all the way back here, we'll have the reading of the beginning again. And then what we're going to do, if it's okay with you, is since we have a small group today and aren't spread around the whole Torah, is I'll start down here and do a little, I'll call it Torah tiyul, a little Torah hike. And we can walk from one end of the Torah to the other, and I'll point out some of the highlights, and anyone who has questions or things during that is welcome to ask at that time. You can walk on either side, either the side facing the words of the Torah or on the other side is also fine. All right. So let's begin. Please rise. This is page 494.
Ishtachavu lehar kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kodsho ki Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu ramemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu ramemu. Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu ramemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu ramemu. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omed. Al Torah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al Torah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omed. Al Torah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al Torah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, haolam omed. Eitz chaim hila machazikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar. Eitz chaim hila machazikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar. Shalom, 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 shalom. It is a tree of life to them who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is the tree of life to them who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. Eitz chaim hila machazikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar. Eitz chaim hila machazikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar. Shalom, 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 shalom. tree of life to them who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is the tree of life to them who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. Eitz chaim hi lamachzikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar. Eitz chaim hi lamachzikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar. Shalom, 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 shalom. It is a tree of life to them who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is the tree of life to them who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cheref. Lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cheref. Lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cheref. Lo yilmedu od milchama.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Oh, this is great. Great microphone. Okay, so when anyone asks you how long is a Torah scroll, it's 17 tables long. That's the biblical measurement, right? 17 tables. However many feet each table. How long is each table?
10 feet.
Okay.
Because we had a couple of 8-foot tables in here.
Okay.
6 and 8s.
So 110 feet, give or take. Okay. So, yeah. So this Torah, of course, is a little shorter than most Torahs because it's a smaller one. The bigger ones would probably be a lot longer because they're bigger and the parchment's bigger. But this gives you a general idea of how very, very long a Torah is. And this, like I said, is a small one. So if you would like, you can be wherever you want, but the action's going to start down on that end because, as I said, we're going to read the end of Devarim, Deuteronomy. And then after we finish that, we're going to say Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. Let us be strong and strengthen one another, which we say at the end of every book that we read in the Torah, and especially when we finish the whole Torah. And then, of course, to show that the reading of Torah and the study of Torah does not end ever, we go back to the beginning and start right away at Bereshit. Okay, so let's start. We'll do the blessing together, okay? And then Calix is going to chant the last little bit, and then I'll get the yad down here. All right? Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. V'lo kam navi od b'Yisrael k'Moshe, asher yado Adonai panim el panim. לכל האותות והמופתים אשר שלחו אדוני לעשות בארץ מצרים לפרעה ולכל עבodiו ולכל ארצו ולכל היד החזקה ולכל המורה הגדול אשר עשה משה לעיני כל ישראל חזק חזק ונתחזק.
Let us be strong, and strengthen one another. And now we can move the chuppah and the yad down here. And we're going to come to the beginning. Okay, you don't have to run. We got time. So if anyone's watching on live streams, of course you weren't able to see that part, but you'll be able to see this part.
Hold a machine over here.
Yeah.
How cool.
Okay. So we continue with another aliyah, another blessing. Go ahead.
Baruch et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. Ve'natan lanu et torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Ve'ha'aretz hayta tohu vavohu v'choshech al pnei tehom Veruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. Vayomer Elohim yehi or vayehi or. Vayar Elohim et haor ki tov. Vayavdel Elohim bein haor uvein hachoshech. Vayikra Elohim laor yom v'lachoshech hara laila. Vayerev vayivoker yom echad.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. So now that we've ended reading Torah and begun again, as I said, we'll take a little trip. If you want to move the chuppah, you can, but you do not have to. You can put it aside. But if you want to, just in case it gets sunny a little. Okay, so for those who are interested, is this okay that we do this?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. So here, first of notice, and Rabbi Fisher was pointing this out as we were rolling the Torah down, we have these beautiful little crowns, because the Torah, of course, probably aware, but I'll just mention, of course, is handwritten. Each of these pieces of parchment was individual to start, of course. They're animal skin, one layer of animal skin. There's not an animal big enough to be the entire Torah. So you have these individual pieces, usually a cow or some other kosher animal. And once the skin is prepared, it's cleaned and it's dried, and then the ink is prepared with a special recipe. The sofer, the scribe, each one has sort of different variations of recipes, just like your family would have different variations of recipes for classic dishes that you have. But what they have in common is it has to be a dark ink that is lasting and stands out. Obviously, it doesn't smudge so much. But if you do touch it with your hands, it is likely to smudge. So, of course, that's why we don't touch with our hands, as well as showing respect to the Torah itself. We don't treat it like any book, but we do use a yad, a pointer, so we don't touch it, but we also don't want to just look at it without pointing, because it would be very hard to keep track. Even if you don't read Hebrew, you could see that this Hebrew is different than that in the prayer book, for example, or in the Torah commentary. Letters are the same, but there are no vowels. And Hebrew was originally written this way. That's why the Torah is like this, written without vowels and meant to be read this way. And an Israeli or native speaker or any fluent speaker of Hebrew can read this without vowels and know what it says, because unlike English, it's not absolutely necessary to have the vowels to know what it says. But the vowels were created later and added later to make it easier to read in books and other forms. So we have these beautiful, so it's written in calligraphy, beautiful writing, and it has these beautiful, what's the term you use?
Tagim.
Tagim, yes. These little crowns, you could call them, these little flourishes at the top that are obviously not part of the letters. But this style of this particular sofer was to embellish the writing with the tagim. There's a beautiful midrash, I guess it is, or not a midrash, but a story of a person who went to heaven and saw God on the throne. And what was God doing? Of all things, you try and guess what it would be that God. Okay, go ahead. What do you think?
On your bar mitzvah, do some people read this whole entire thing?
No.
Did it take an hour?
It would take a lot longer than an hour, I think, right? It'd be like a long book. But no.
What was God doing?
Okay.
What was he doing?
Okay, well, could be. The answer to this, which is not to be taken literally, what was God doing of all things in the whole world? Sewing these little tagim onto the letters of the Torah scroll, to show that even something that seems very small and minute and not necessarily important is God concerns God's self with every detail. And so it is very important. Other people might say that it has a mystical meaning and that, those are there and, have some explanation. But generally I would say they're there because, for calligraphy and to beautify it. So we start with this story of creation. We keep moving along and we get to the story of Noah. Here's mention of Noah's name, right? Vayidaber Elohim el Noach, and so on. So we have the flood story, and we keep going. I'm just going to hit the highlights here. This is one of my favorite portions also happened to be Ben's bar mitzvah portion, which is Lech Lecha. So it begins Genesis chapter 12, where God comes to Avram, who later becomes Abraham, and calls Abraham to leave his home and his native country to the land that God will show him. And that's the beginning of the story of Abraham. And then we continue throughout with the story of Abraham, and then Isaac, and then Jacob. It takes a while. So you keep going, and you can see that some of the columns, of course written in columns, and by the way, a little trick that a lot of people don't realize is if you look really closely, you'll see lines, not written lines, but scratched lines with a special tool that's like a sharp edge, not sharp enough to cut a hole in the parchment, but to leave a mark on it. And they go at the top of each line and down the sides of each column, left and right side. If you look carefully with the light, you can see it. So before the sofer writes these lines, he or now she will scratch these lines on, up and down. And instead of writing on the lines or between the lines, which of course those who remember when you learned how to write or print in school, you were told, stay between the lines and write on the line and things like that. They don't write on the line. They actually hang the letters from the top of the line. So you start at the top line and then make the stroke, turning the quill, the feather that's used of a turkey or goose or some kosher animal, and dipped in the ink, and use that to write these beautiful letters. Some of the columns don't have any spaces whatsoever. It's amazing. An entire column without a gap. No punctuation, no gap. Okay? So here's a little gap, here's a little gap. Why they picked certain ones, I don't know, because there's certain ends of sentences and ends of paragraphs in between, but this is how it's done. Okay? When they do it, they have to copy it from another scroll. They may have memorized the whole Torah. They may be that knowledgeable, but they're not supposed to do it by memory, because that would lead to more mistakes. So they're supposed to copy it from another scroll, letter by letter, word by word, and say it out loud so that they're really concentrating. Okay, so we move along. Here we're up to Jacob already here. You can see some markings already. I think that was probably a hole that was fixed. And you're allowed to, by the way, fix a scroll. You're even allowed to scratch out letters and words and rewrite them. That's a common misconception that you can't do that. You can. The only exception is if it's God's name, you can't do that. If it's God's name that you've made a mistake, then you have to discard the entire piece of parchment, not the whole Torah, but the piece of parchment, because it hasn't all been sewn together yet when you're checking it. And instead of, you can't throw it out because it's a holy text and has God's name on it. So instead of throwing it out, you would bury it. You would take it to put it in what's called a geniza. Some places have a storage facility, and then it could be used before it goes and is buried in a Jewish cemetery in a special section. So there's an example of, they didn't have to they didn't have to bury this part, but they had to fix it. And you keep going here through Jacob, and then you get to Joseph. Eventually, we're already into Joseph here and here. Some of you will noticed already that you passed it, is what is easy to identify as the end of one of the books. Right? So this is the end of Genesis. So all this, Genesis, goes from all the way there to here. So it's one of the longer books, 50 chapters. So this ends, and there actually is a gap like this between the end of Genesis and the beginning of Exodus. And keep going is the story, of course, of the Israelites early in Egypt, and new Pharaoh, and then Moses' birth, and God coming to Moses with the bush, and so on. And we keep going. We know the story with all the plagues and the descriptions surrounding that. And then we get... Yep. This is a very specific, easy to recognize portion, as you can see. It is very distinct, and it is Shirat Hayam, Song of the Sea, Exodus chapter 15. Okay? We sing this during the weekly cycle, but we also it also has Mi Chamocha right here in the middle of it. Mi chamocha ba'ilim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefela. And that is,
It's done with a different set of tropes.
yes, correct.
So
Do
it
you want
sounds
to?
different than I
Not
have
do
not
it offhand?
practiced it.
Okay, that's okay. Well,
But,
not the whole thing. I just thought you meant that line. But yes, this has a specific trope, and meaning the tune that you sing it to. And yeah, it's a special piece. And it's written, either you could say it's written like poetry, which it is, or you could say it's made to look like the bricks of the pyramids, or it's made to look like waves of the sea. You know, yeah, exactly. So whatever it is, there's all sorts of symbolism to it, and it's set apart from the rest in that way. And then shortly after, it's 7 weeks according to tradition, but it's only 1 week in terms of between readings, between Exodus 15 and Exodus 20. So it's basically about a column per chapter. And here's the Ten Commandments, which actually appears twice in the Torah. And here it is, also set apart a little differently. Starts up here, Vayidaber Elohim et kol hadvarim ha'ela lemor, and then here the Ten Commandments start. Anochi Adonai Elohecha, all the way. Here's Shabbat, which is longer, and then you have a series of short ones, honor your father and mother, and so on.
The shortest phrases in all of the Torah are in here. Like the very short sentences.
Yeah, and there's actually 2 sets of trope for the Ten Commandments.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that's, I'm not sure what the reasons or how you choose which one.
Some communities read it on the high holidays as well, so some of it's done in high holiday trope, depending on what.
That's different, yes,
Yeah.
it's a high holiday trope, but I mean there's 2 sets of trope signs, symbols on the Ten Commandments. Yeah, 2 totally set simultaneously, and you have to pick one or the other. So anyway, it continues, and you continue through Exodus. And of course, there's another misconception that Moses went up and got the Ten Commandments, which he did according to the tradition, but he also was supposed to have received the whole Torah and many other commandments. So it goes on. Mishpatim, the next section, has, I think, the most mitzvot, the most commandments of any parasha, any portion in the Torah, and they're all listed here in these upcoming columns. And it keeps going through. I'll move along a little faster now. We continue. Here's the end of Exodus, beginning of Leviticus, and Leviticus starts the narrative pauses of the Israelites' wanderings, and it's interrupted by an entire book devoted to Levitical laws, initially laws of sacrifice, and there's many chapters of that. The first section is all about that. The second section repeats basically the first section in a slightly different order for various reasons. And then it continues until you get to the middle. I don't know if I can spot it very quickly, but it is the holiness code, Kiddoshim, which we read on Yom Kippur afternoon, is right in the middle of Exodus. This is that? No, it doesn't look like that. No, these are curses.
So the blessing.
No.
And I'm not
Yeah, here it is. Here it is. This is V'chiyagur, that's 33. This is it. Okay, this right here in the middle of Leviticus is what's called the Holiness Code. In the middle of all this ritual law and laws about sacrifices and other ritual things, there's an ethical code which is very similar in a lot of ways to the Ten Commandments. The same style of writing, pithy little statements about how to act ethically, but it's distinct. It's different ones. Some of them repeat, honoring parents and not stealing, various things like that. But there's also other ones. The one you may be familiar with, not gleaning the corners of the field and the edges of the fields and leaving the gleanings behind, and anything you drop is in there. And we continue through Leviticus all the way up to here. Leviticus is relatively short. Here's Numbers. Okay, and then starts with the commandment to take a census of the people, and it continues. Here is the Birkat Kohanim that we hear often, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you and keep you, and so on. Right here, again, set off in a different kind of print, different kind of setting. Continue here, some interesting little, this is a part that's said in a more traditional liturgy during the Torah service. Vayihi bin soah ha'aron vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai v'hutzu oivecha. This is, so when the ark was presented before the people, Moses said, arise, God, and scatter, whatever your people, your enemies, and so on. So that's sung before we sing Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah. This is the part that's sung more traditionally, right from the Torah.
It's my bat mitzvah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
It's fine. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I got the notice. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because this has got some very interesting, sometimes because the lines, for whatever reason, this is, it's designed to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 5 words across. And when you have to have less words, you don't have any hyphens in the Torah, so you can't end the word in the middle of a word, and you obviously want to, unless you're at the very end of a line, like here or here, you don't want to ruin the beautiful, perfect columns. So you have to elongate certain letters, and the ones that are elongated are the ones that have a horizontal part to it, so that can be extended, like the tav, v'asitem. And this tav is written like the size of 4 or 5 letters, and even the final mem is extended. Et, the aleph, and the tav. Kol, the lamed, is extended. Here's another tav that's extended. So it's interesting how they do it. But it has to be pre-planned. You can't just guess as you go. That would be a mess. Keep going. There's the end of Numbers, right there. And here I'll just come around.
What's this right here? Looks pretty interesting.
Let's see.
This is the travels.
Go ahead.
They traveled and they camped.
Yeah. It's a list, one after the other. Oh. And it's, again, for some reason, they chose to list it, very clear, identical. The same word at the beginning, the same word here, and the places from here to there, each line.
So that's at the end and recounts their journey.
Yeah, that's interesting how it's laid out. Here's the beginning of Deuteronomy, and it takes you all the way through now. Of course, in Deuteronomy, we have the 10 Commandments again. Here it is, second time, with a few slight differences, and here's the Shema. With 2, I've mentioned this before, sometimes, about the 2 enlarged letters, the ayin and the dalet. One is supposed to, so you don't confuse the word Shema with Shema, which means perhaps, and you don't use the word Echad with Acher. You don't think this is a resh, which means another. You don't say perhaps Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is another. So that's one explanation. And the other is you put the 2 letters together, ayin and dalet, and you get the word aid, which is witness, and we're all witnesses. So there's 2 explanations why these 2 letters are enlarged in the Torah, and you'll even see it in the Torah commentaries, it's enlarged. And continues with various descriptions of their final wanderings, Moses' final days, more curses, warnings. And here's where we read at the end. Here's another Moses' last poems or songs, statements that are put in poetic form, recounting some of the at the end, and recounts some of the previous episodes. And here's the ending that we just heard. So that's it. That was in a nutshell, the entire Torah. Here's another enlarged letter. Interesting. There's certain ones that are intentionally large. Okay. So we have an option here, because probably the people here are going to be the only ones here tomorrow. We can roll it back to here so we can read from the end again tomorrow, or we can roll back to the beginning so it's ready for the beginning. But if we roll it back to here, I'll just roll it all the way back after tomorrow.
What would you prefer?
Well, it's easier to not have to roll it back again. We can close it now, but if we want to read again, like we just heard it, so we read the Deuteronomy without the Torah scroll and read Genesis from the Torah scroll tomorrow morning?
That would be fine.
Okay. We have an executive decision. In that case, we're going to roll this back. And again, Remember that we started down on this end and unrolled it. So I'm going to take, if you could hold on to that. Yeah, but I just, every so often I need to tighten it up and,
Keep it square.
yeah. It's easy to roll, at least at this early stage, but it's not as easy to keep it. All right, and we can roll it quickly. It'd be easy if you just let me roll, and then just let me roll it without holding it, because it'll make it easier. You don't have to hold it. And then, and when I tighten it, then you can help me. Okay, here we go. This just got a little. All right, here we go. I need to do it a little tighter. All right, there we go. What was that? All right, we can try now that it's getting a little thicker.
Can you do whatever? I'll follow you.
Yeah, I'm just going to try and straighten it up a little. All right, there we go. The main thing is to leave gap at both ends so that you can roll and not squish it. Okay, let's take a second and tighten it up. Before you tighten it too much, I want to. There we go. That's better. Yeah, it's going to take a while.
I'm trying to think if we pull it back a little as we turn it. Keep it tight,
Well,
like
we're
that.
okay. We're okay. We're getting there. It's just going to take a little time. It's already starting to get a little loose. It's not rolling as tightly as it could, which by the end is going to make it very
Huge.
Yeah. It's okay. It's still fairly tight. And eventually it'll get rolled back. So this is already one book done. So yeah, what's Deuteronomy done? Let's move this over a little so I don't roll off. Seen better days, some of the parts. All right, let's tighten it a little. It's easier when you have the other end close to this, so you can pull on it and tug without.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Now you can't really pull it and tighten it. Okay, that's okay. Now. Getting there. Okay, there's two books. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, it's gonna be a little loose. Yeah, it's just a little loose. I'm less concerned with that than I am with it getting too much up or down, because then we won't be able to roll it without squishing it. Yeah. Okay, let's give it a little tug. See, it's interesting, it has these little markings on it. Yeah. Identification. I'm getting there. Okay, I'm gonna tighten. There's the 10 Commandments. will work out. Okay, we gotta, I just don't want to roll off. Okay, we gotta tighten it a little. Oh, yeah. All right, in a few weeks it'll get back to. Let's fix that part. That part doesn't look so good. All right.
See if we can.
Tighten it. Well, once we get it to the end, we'll see if we can tighten it.
They had a restoration project on it. Chris,
Have to restore them.
somebody came in,
Yeah.
All right, now.
restored it.
Right there. Now let's see if we can.
Oh, paper clips.
Yeah. Doesn't harm it. All right. Okay. That's good enough.
Got a lot better.
Yeah. All right, that's fine. I'll take it. Oh, thank you. Just put it under. Under. Okay. Where's the rest?
Everything.
You want to hold it? You gonna hold it? Thank you. Just hold it up.
Have to re-roll this whole thing again.
Well, it's actually easier if it's in one spot.
It's stuck on the back.
It's fine. I can, when I put it in the arc, I'll just fix it.
No, it's good now.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Never get to actually use it, so it's nice.
Yeah.
Always busy singing over there.
Right. Now we also did this.
Or-
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's,
it's not enough.
all right. We're going to put the Torah back in the ark, so if everyone could stand, we'll sing Eitz Chaim. Let me just fix this a little.
Eitz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'tomecheha meyushar deracheha darecheinu v'chol netivotecha shalom.
right into Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, לתת גאולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. And we'll just switch things around a little tonight since we took a little longer and we're already at the Ark. We did Aleinu, but we'll go back and do Mishaberach now and then Kaddish. Mishaberach Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah U'Yivarech v'Yiraped Kol Cholei Yisrael v'Kol Cholei Adam. May God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all those who are in need of healing. On this Shabbat, we think, this era of Simchat Torah, we think especially of Bobby Kluge, Max Kanowitz, Christine McSherry-Strovnik, Leah Henry, Terry Sanders, Laser Lieberman, Barbara Fine, Wendy Gross, Bobby Stoddard, Judy Lesser, Rhonda Carroll, Arthur Wilson, Eleanor Doria, Batchava Evelyn, Ira Berezowski, Rachel Beers, David Silberhartz, Lanny Eisenberg, Michael Eisenberg, David Abbey, Margaret Schoenfeld, Carol Frischa, Marie Cardella, Ara Barrett, Joe Cooper, Ann Bignon, Jim Walker, Carol Wallace, Leon Felsher, Josephine Baez, Angelina Agavedo Romed, Arlene Guma, Paul Guma, Nancy Blake, Ellie Walsh, Susan Sadens, Lindsay Hartman, Lucas Hartman. We also pray for servicemen and servicewomen who have been wounded or injured on behalf of our country. If anyone has a name or names of someone who is sick or injured in need of healing, please feel free to mention the names, and those who are watching on live stream, feel free to mention names as well at this time.
Jordan Goldstein, Heather Shore.
V'tishlach lehem refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, v'nomar. Amen.
Amen.
May God grant all of them, those we have mentioned, whose names we have mentioned, those whose names we have read, those in our own hearts and minds, a complete and speedy healing, a healing of body and a healing of spirit, and we say, Amen. And we'll sing Mishaberach together, which is on page 511.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBeracha Leimotenu those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
And we think now of loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. We think especially of the yahrzeit, anniversary of death, of Martin Koppel, father of Ira Koppel, Leah Schreiber, Barbara Brunner, aunt of Laura Gewurtz, David Brunner, Jack Finkelstein, father of Jerry Fine, Mildred Jacobson, Shirley Rivkin, mother of Eileen Ensler, Ronald Cassover, father of Karen Cassover Rose, Jesse Morris, Sophie Ryman, Fred Singer, father of Essie Freilich, Morris Lieblich, Meyer Rudnick, Gisela Singer, mother of Essie Freilich, Melvin Iverson, Marvin Metzger, uncle of Randall James, Ellen Steinhauer, sister of Glenn Steinhauer. If anyone has name or names for yahrzeit, anniversary of death, or for shloshim, a recent death, please feel free to mention the name or names as I look in your direction again. Those watching on live stream, feel free to mention at this time as well. For the names that have been read, for any names that may have been mentioned, for those in our own hearts and minds, and those who have no one to say the words of Kaddish for them, we turn to page 598. There we find words of Kaddish praising God for the gift of life. We stand together as a sacred congregation in support of those in mourning. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudusha barichu ve'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, all Israel and all of humanity, we say amen. Please be seated. Do you have any announcements tonight? No? So just to mention a reminder that we have services tomorrow, including Yizkor at 10 o'clock. And then, of course, our Shabbat service next in a few days on Friday evening, Shabbat evening at 7:30. Torah study at 10 o'clock the next day. I want to say thank you to Calix Jacobson and Dan Vogel for their wonderful music, for everyone for participating, and to Howie, and I'm not sure who, Jay, I think, assisted in setting up the tables. And Kate, thank you, Kate, for setting up all 17 tables. That's a lot of tables. And we appreciate that very much, so we could have that special look at the Torah. We are going to conclude with, before Kiddush and Hamotzi, with V'ha'er Einenu, page 650. Go ahead. Go ahead. Shemecha
ראו ירא את שמך.
Adonai oz le'emo yiten, Adonai varechet amo v'shalom. God, we ask that you give us strength at this time of finishing the reading of Torah and beginning again. May we be strengthened by the words of our tradition through its teachings, and may it help to inspire us and lead us to building a world and a community of shalom, of peace. Amen. Chag Sameach to everyone. Yes, I'm just checking this. We will have Kiddush and Hamotzi, page 386 for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol am, ורוממנו מכל לשון, וקידשנו במצוותיו. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, מועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון. את יום השמיני חג הארצות הזה, זמן שמחתנו מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כיוון ובחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ומעדי קודשך בשמחה ובששון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש ישראל והזמנים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Join in Hamotzi. Chag Sameach.